someone has seen the movie already, would you suggest, though, that they should still come to see the play?
Well, I think, yes, by all means, because the play was the inspiration for the movie. And I think that what the play offers that the movie cannot, is the ability to see both the live action and the televised action simultaneously, as in a rock concert or a sporting event. So the other thing is, I think the play, as a piece of theater, works in a very unique way in that you have a direct address where the characters break the fourth wall, they actually talk to the audience, and they move things along. It plays like a thriller, and it's without an intermission, and so it really is, and there's a lot of comedy in it too. There's a lot of humor, and I don't know that, from what I've been told, that the movie reflects that, even though I've also heard that it's Ron Howard's best work to date, you know.
Well, we'll all have to look forward to seeing that then.
And I think, yeah, it's good. I also think that the movie and the play being out simultaneously have formed a kind of symbiotic relationship in the sense that you get brand recognition and people become aware.
I wondered if that might not be the case. It's certainly heightened awareness of the title and that sort of thing. Could you talk a little bit about how you went about preparing yourself for this role?
Sure. Yeah, well, the first thing I did was, when I first was told that I was going to do this, I thought, well, I've got to do everything possible to look and sound and do everything Nixonian. So I had a nose made, I had cheeks made, I had a chin made, I had contact lenses, teeth, eyebrows, hairpiece, and I threw it all out except for the hairpiece. Because I realized that this is not an impersonation, you know, it's not an impression. Well, it is an impression, but an impression in the impressionistic, in the artistic sense of the word. It is not, the measure of success here is not how well you act like Nixon, even though there's certain Nixonian things you have to do, you know, but it's about how, for me anyway, what we've discovered about Nixon's soul. A lot of people didn't think he had one, but I tend, you know, and Peter Morgan does, and I do as well. He was a troubled man, but a fascinating man. And I read, of course, many books, and the first thing I did was I went back to the interviews themselves and actually spent a lot of time watching his behavior and watching the exchange between he and David Frost. And ultimately, though, I think it was his memoirs that gave me the deepest insights into his character. And what I discovered about him was that he, aside from being extremely intelligent, he was very troubled by he was very self-conscious about his image, I mean, he was convinced that perspiration caused him to lose the election, and the shadow from his beard, and he was very self-conscious, very, very awkward around people. He even admits in the play that small talk is not one of his strongest suits.
Why do you think Frost was so able to, I don't know if put him at ease is the right term, but to at least engage with him on in the conversations that they had? Well,
Frost, being a very intelligent man as well, I think asked questions that had a different level of kind of a higher level or a higher perspective of observations about his life, about his things, the decisions that he'd made. And I don't think that Frost very purposefully initially didn't put him on the defensive in terms of Watergate. Even though in the play, the first question out of his mouth is, why didn't you burn the tapes? You know, but I think beyond that, they engaged in very active conversations that were very revealing about not only the history of that era, but in Vietnam, but also the people that were involved in the Watergate scandal. Ultimately, he did, you know, get him though.
Yeah.
He got him,
absolutely.
Got him to acknowledge that he was involved.
Yeah. You've done so much stage work during your career, as you mentioned earlier. You've played Hamlet a couple of times. You've more recently played King Lear at the Goodman. Any of those Shakespearean roles give you fodder for creating Richard Nixon?
Well, I think there is a lot of Lear in Nixon. I've said that before, and I really think that the sin of pride, these feelings of entitlement, that because I'm the king, because I'm the head of the country, I'm entitled to certain things. I'm above the law. The need, the desperate need to be loved and appreciated and respected. I think these are all things that you find in Shakespeare. Also, the recognition that comes too late that he did a bad thing. I think it, you know, it always. I think the great tragic heroes come to that point, and when they realize what their lives have been, but it's over. There's nothing they can do to rectify that.
Who would have thought we would have come to see Richard Nixon as a great tragic hero? But in a very strong sense, I think you're right.
You know.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are listening, if you are interested in experiencing this reincarnation of Richard Nixon in the form of Stacy Keach at the Aronoff Center, you can do so for yet another week. Broadway Across America is presenting one more week of performances of Frost Nixon, Tuesday through Sunday, March the 8th. You'll find a link for more information at WVXU.org. Stacy, it's really been a privilege to have you here in the studio to talk about
this. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming by. For Around Cincinnati, I'm Rick Pender.